Dawn of the Monsters is the Godzilla rampaging kaiju game you've basically always wanted. It's essentially a PS2 game, for better and for worse. The story for the game is generally every monster movie you've ever seen. Monsters begin to appear and ravage Earth, so the fate of the planet rests in the hands of a superhero who can grow, a human-controlled mecha, and two mind-controlled monsters. All the while, a predictable, sinister force and twists bubble in the background. Seriously, the story is alright, campy, but also taken seriously enough, but the main villain and the reason for what they are doing are exactly what you think it is. Honestly, I really like the cast all around. They were a quirky group of PTSD-riddled misfits who, while sometimes fell a bit too far into the genre angst, were genuinely enjoyable, and I was absolutely rooting for them all. Honestly, I was a bit sad that one of the characters wasn't a reversal of subverted expectations, since the twist made him blander than he was set up to be. I actually really like that outside of the comic-style story moments, you could brush up on lore and monster information in the archives to get some neat details, but you could also get to know more of the characters through different conversation moments you unlock after certain story moments that you can watch whenever you might want to. The gameplay all around is a pretty basic beat 'em up with neat environmental destruction, a surprising amount of gore and fatalities, and an upgrade system that is more neat in concept than it is in execution. Basically, you have different cards you can collect through the game after beating levels, but I never found myself experimenting like the game wanted me to with them, and just settled into using the same few cards over and over. Another issue is, while all four of the playable monsters are unique, and I love that there are four, I only really played as the fast Aegis Prime and the heavy-hitting Magadon. And sadly, I ignored the technical Ganira and complex Tempest Galahad, since the latter was just a bit too difficult for me to play, sadly. Still, I commend the fact that there is variety for the player roster, which sadly, like most brawlers, is lacking for the enemies, bosses, and certain events that happen in the game. Hell, throw in the mission structure, as it's all predictable. Yet when the game does mix things up a bit, like with the hazard levels, it suffers too, since those are just ugly to look at. At the very least, however, outside of enemies, like any other game in the genre becoming a bit too spongy, fighting was all around pretty darn solid and fun, and well executed enough as is. Where the gameplay really falters is, well, the boss rush, which leads me into why this is a thoughts video, and not even a to the point. I didn't finish the game. Not for a lack of trying, since I did throw myself into the boss rush with the mindset of beating it. The issue is, well, this game breaks a lot. Like, seriously, I had two times, the first being earlier, and the second being during the boss rush, where the game just won't progress, or stops during the loading screens. Seriously, I waited 5 minutes for the loading screen to go through, and it never did. I gave up, since I was on the final boss of the rush, almost an hour in, and then it broke. I'm sorry, I'm not doing all that over again, since checkpoints do not save if you quit the level or the game. That is the biggest issue in the game performance-wise, outside of a few of the times the visuals broke or the game stuttered. I really do like this game's style. It looks like a comic book and cartoon that you could play, and all the character art, monster designs, and everything else, save for the often repeated environments and level dressing, really did look great. The destruction effects were really neat, if not a bit basic and obscured by stuff in the foreground. The colors were all around really wonderful, if not a little bit drab here and there again for some of the environments, and the pixel art for the loading screens was cute. I just really hope they fix all the issues with patches, since when it works, it's nice to look at and shows that it can be a really fun time. Actually, let me bring up another poor point to the game. The sound, at least the sound quality. All the music is really good, and the voice actors do a generally good job 90% of the time, save for a few lines that were a bit stilted, but you know what, I'll give it a pass because, well, it gives it that monster movie feel. But what really kills it is the fact that the audio almost the entire time sounds like it was recorded through a tin can.
The databases were wiped shortly before Professor Goromaki's disappearance, and we're still in the process of building it up again.
And hits like a boulder. All right, we'll be careful.
You know the drill. Let's take that Gaiacris down.
Now, I can totally understand why recording lines for the game might have been difficult, but here's my question. Why does the quality sound less clear, more tinny, and more crackle-filled than any of my older videos? I just do not get it, and it's an issue for almost all the voices throughout the entire game.
They're in custody, but I'll try to get them a pardon in exchange for intel on the Nephilim territory.
But ma'am!
There's more than one way to lose to the Nephilim, Jamila. You should know that better than anyone.
Everyone's trying to survive, kid. Let it go. You'll give it your all. I'll be focused on making sure you don't get killed. Leon, this team is still looking a bit green to be out in the field like this.
Encouraging words noted, AG.
And with all that said, like I said, this is not a bad game. And while I know that the sound might not be fully fixable, sadly, I really hope that they patch the performance issues, since this is a really fun game. It's not too long, has a fun, likable cast, and it really fills that kaiju game niche people want. With the only real issues that can't be fixed being the typical beat-em-up genre issues that are in even the most classic of brawlers. If the game does get some nice touches up in the form of patches, if you're into monster movies, big creatures fighting, and 80s Japanese sci-fi stuff, this is definitely a game I can recommend you spend an evening with.